My friend used to slag me. I used to look up job sites and I'd put in jobs. And I'd basically just put in a 5-mile radius to my house. I was like, I just want something handy.
Welcome to Real Health with me, Carl Henry. Folks, standing up in front of a room full of strangers and trying to make them laugh is probably one of the most daunting jobs in the world, but not for my next guest. At 29, she decided to get into stand-up comedy and has forged a very successful career, but it didn't happen overnight. Comedian Emma Doran joins me in studio. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You were the first ever comedian we've had. We're 6 years, every Thursday, well, every week for 6 years recording, and you're the first ever comedian.
Oh, wow.
Kind of exciting.
That's good. Usually comedians are always on podcasts, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've got a lot of time during the day. So we're like, yeah, I'll do your podcast, yeah.
These kind of episodes are fascinating. So they're kind of life lessons. We bring in interesting people and we just get to know them a little bit. And we chat to them about life and how they got to where they get to and what they're doing and was it always their plan and speed bumps along the way and what people can kind of learn from that.
Okay.
Comedy wasn't always your plan of action, was it?
No, not at all. I mean, I didn't really have much awareness of stand-up comedy, except for like little bits that I'd seen on TV growing up. Now, my mum and dad were big comedy fans and they liked, obviously, Tommy Tiernan and Billy Connolly, Eddie Izzard, those kind of people. So I definitely watched a lot of comedy in my house, but I didn't think it was a career or it was something that I could do. So even to me, people who did drama after school, I thought, wow.
So you didn't do drama in school or anything? Or did you?
I did I think when I was in about I was in fifth year, I looked up in the yellow pages for a drama school and I asked my dad, can I go here? Because I really wanted to try and do something. But even then, it took me a long time to build up to, if any interest I had, they tried to, support it or whatever. But I think it was just with acting and performing, to me, I had this idea that you were almost born into something like that. Or like the Billy Barry kids, I'd be at home like making faces at them like, oh, the Billy Barrys. But the truth was internally, I was extremely jealous of them. And I would have loved to have been a Billy Barry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I was too shy or just maybe lacked the confidence. I wanted someone to kind of nearly walk up to me and say, oh, you should do that. You'd be great at that. I didn't realize, it took me a long time to realize, oh, I'm actually going to just have to put myself out there and perform rather than someone just like discovering me under a bush or something. I think I was naturally quite a shy person. But I always wanted to perform or something, but secretly, wouldn't tell people. Mortified.
Really?
Mortified. And even at family gatherings, there'd be like party pieces or, sing songs or whatever. I'd be in the thick of it sitting there, but I wouldn't volunteer to do something. I'd have to be...
And what was your party piece?
Oh, I was dying to sing, but it would have to be that thing that SNL's... a sketch kind of like, oh, don't make me sing, don't make me sing. And then, I was one of those people. So I think it took me a long time to cop on that if I wanted to do something, I was just going to have to do it. But I suppose it's the vulnerability part of it. That's probably the bit that scared me, is being vulnerable. And I think that's part of not even just performing, but putting yourself out there or saying, this is a thing that I want to do and I'm going to try this thing and it mightn't work out. Scary. So
And were you brought up in a family like that, to try stuff and to have a go and have a pop and not worry about that sense of it not working out?
So I have two older brothers and probably like a lot of Irish families, we would have just slagged each other like... I always say my brothers were my first hecklers, they really were. Even tiny things like putting a poster on your bedroom wall, the first poster you put on.
Who's your first poster?
Oh, it's really bad. It was the lead singer of D-Ream.
Oh my God. Okay.
No, one hit wonder. No, you weren't expecting that. But it was literally my first time getting my hands on a poster. So I was like
smash hits or something.
Yeah, I was like, let's start the poster thing. Hopefully better ones will come along. And that was weeks and weeks of slagging, carefully crafted stuff. Even when you think it has died, somebody just mumbles it in the kitchen over breakfast. But I think my parents and everyone, you were definitely encouraged to try different things and give things a go. And I did like in school, like I did, gymnastics, I did basketball. I would try lots of different things, but I think performing, it's probably that thing that because it felt personal, I was like, ooh, that's a bit scary.
Yeah, it's not like scoring a goal or playing a sport or playing in a team.
Yeah.
It's you. It's you're out there. It's very scary.
Yeah. So, but no, I don't think anything that we would have done growing up in the house, there would have been people saying, oh, what are you doing? Or this isn't, it would have been quite an open house, definitely.
And that banter presumably gives you the thicker skin for what you do as a day job now, or forms a part of that.
Oh, big style. Yeah, like I think brothers in particular are just so cruel, but in a lovely way.
And you get your own back in the book now, don't you?
Oh, I do.
Yeah,
oh, no, I
do.
definitely do get my own back in them. And it's funny, my brothers have never come to see me do stand-up.
Ever.
So even though
Is that you barring them? Or
no,
is
I
that...
probably would have at the start. At the start, I didn't like people coming, or, I'd be like, oh, don't tell me you're coming, have all these like kind of ideas. Now, I wouldn't bother me at all. But I get why they don't want to go, because they find it like quite difficult. Like, so they're both very supportive, and even like one of my brothers, Simon, he seems to keep track of what I'm doing more than I do. I'm kind of like, because he's not online, so I'm like, where are you? I'm like, he definitely has like secret accounts or something that I don't know about. But I think they'd find a gig too intense. Like they feel that they were me or something, or they'd be seeing it from my perspective rather than audience, I think, yeah.
So you finished school?
Finished school, yes.
Yeah. What's the plan then?
So I finished school. So finishing school now was a bit complicated because I had my daughter like 13 days before my leaving cert.
Wow.
So it's complicated to look back on now, but the way, would life have been different or whatever, I still, I wouldn't have applied for anything to do with performing on the CEO, not at all. I thought probably at 18, because I wasn't in like a performing family, I honestly would have been thinking, no, I've missed the boat. That's for like other types of people. But so when I was applying for my CEO, I tried to make very sensible decisions with my CEO choices. So I think my first choice was like English, Media and Cultural Studies, because I'd heard that was kind of a backdoor way into...
It's like arts.
Arts, yeah. And then my other one was Business and Arts Management.
For anyone who did arts, by the way, we're not knocking you in the slightest bit. I have loads of friends who did arts and absolutely loved it.
A lot of people did arts. Like every second person does arts, because she's like, let's do arts. But I did Business and Arts Management then, because I thought, that was my second choice. So I thought, business, that's sensible. And I thought maybe I was still hopeful, tiny little glimmers of hope, but I was still hopeful. I was thinking maybe I could do something like slightly creative or something in business or, something. So I left school and then I went to college in the September. And because of what had led up to that, and that like my mum was minding my daughter and, everyone was kind of supporting me to go to
rallying
college.
Round, yeah.
I really felt like I had to do well. I really felt like everyone obviously wants, if you're going to spend your time in college, most people want to do well. Or if you feel like it's not for you, I think most people kind of get out pretty quick, don't they? But I was like, I have to make this worth, because people are making sacrifices so I can go and do this.
It's a very grown-up approach to take to first year college. So that year made you grow up very
Oh, yeah,
very quickly,
sure. I was already completely grown up. Like when my friends were going to their debs, I was like... I couldn't be dealing with that. I'm far too sophisticated. Like I do, you know what I mean? I was beyond that by that stage. I'd had a totally different experience to my friends. So like they were going on their 6th-year holidays. I was buying baby grows, like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't comparable. So I think for the 4 years when I was in college, I made friends and all that, but I really tried to work hard to get a good result. And I'd say by the 4th year, I was kind of starting to come out of myself a little bit, like kind of my old funny self, or just being more relaxed. So I kind of loosened up about college. And I think even little things like, we did all these like funny votes at the end of the year. I think I was voted like funniest girl in the class or something. But little things like that, I'd be like, oh
Delighted.
God, I was delighted, yeah. Because I wasn't really, it's not like I was having a crazy social life in college, you know, and I kind of would have been that person before. So I was really like Cinderella in college. I'd go to like the freshers night out or something like that. But once it hit 12, I was gone. Because I was like, I got to get home or whatever.
Yep.
So, yeah, but it was always still in the back of my head trying to find a way of like getting into performing or something like that. But I think when I left college, I just got like an admin job and it was local to my house. My friend used to slag me. I used to look up job sites and I'd put in jobs. And I'd basically just put in a 5-mile radius to my house. I was like, I just want something handy. I was like, you know, I'll be leaving Ella, I'll be getting her minded. And I was a single parent. And I think when you're a single parent, it's so intense. So I think like a lot of people maybe don't appreciate the positive sides of it. Like you and your child, it's just the two of you together. You are so close. And that, I feel like for us now, you only get to enjoy that foundation kind of later in life when your child is a little bit older, because at the time it's just you're in it, you can't see it. But I definitely probably made a lot of decisions that I mightn't have made in a partnership. Like I was like, I don't want a job too far away from my house, or I need to get this job because it's just me. And so you've made the choices that you make, I think, compared to being in a couple. Because obviously when you're in a couple and you have a child or children, it's ebbs and flows, and at some point someone else's career will have to take priority, and then it can flip back to your partner, or, you know, there's give and take. But when it's just you, it is just you know. So I got an admin job and I thought that'll be grand. And then I was tipping around there for a while, getting pretty bored. Usually my thing with admin jobs was like about 6 months in.
Oh yeah, you get the itch.
I get the itch. Once I've kind of figured out the sensitivities of the printer and whatever else. And you can only nick so many highlighters. There's only so many highlighters you can get through. And you've done your printing, you know, you've done all those things. You've done your online shopping, all that. I was kind of like, I don't know what to do. So I found out I was in some admin job and I found out about there was some sort of opportunity in a community radio station. Okay. So I was able to do it because I was a lone parent, and it was kind of like a fast course thing. And I jumped at this, you know, it was me presenting the late. Like I was like, oh my God. But it was just like, because I was like, I didn't think I was going to get any little windows or opportunities. So I got to do that for a while, and then that kind of started a constant thing of like office jobs to like pay the bills, and, you know, even not even pay the bills, but just having something that was more structured. And, you know, you could say, I'm going to be home at this time, and, you know, I know exactly where I am Monday to Friday, and then doing more like production-y, messy jobs. Yep. You know, so it was constant then back and forth for years. That's what I did.
And then you make the decision to go comedy. Where does comedy come out of? Where does jumping on a stage?
I think I kind of had an idea that I wanted to act or perform or something like that. But I kind of knew that it was maybe comedy, it was leaning towards comedy. And actually a big influence on me, and she'd probably kill me if I say this, but it was Jennifer Zamparelli. When she was on Republic Telly, I looked at that at the time and I was like, well, there's like a gig in Ireland. I know where RTE is, but that kind of seemed like a big goal, but like to put in front of me. But that was almost, it wasn't completely untangible. Like it wasn't something like crazy in America, or, you know, would involve.
It was achievable.
It was I thought like, oh, that's something to kind of reach for or whatever. And I thought she had the dream job. I was like, oh, she can do like presenting bits, she can do like funny stuff, she can do sketches. I was like, wow. So that was kind of, I don't know, in the back of my head. But at 29, so what happened was, so by that time, during my 20s, I'd finished college, I'd met my partner in Coppers. I met him.
Of course. Of course.
He actually grew up around the corner from me, but we didn't know each other. So I recognise you. And I love Blossomed, but we got together. And then, we were kind of going out for a few years. And that was a whole other thing to navigate. But then we moved in together. That was all happy. And then I had my son. So 10 years after Ella, I was in a totally different zone. I'm settled now. I'm in a relationship. Life is happy enough. But I just suddenly thought to myself, it was while I was on maternity leave, I was like, oh my God, that 10 years just went so fast. And I'd done like bits and pieces and whatever, but I was like, I haven't really tried to do anything to like get out there and perform or, just put myself out there.
That was the trigger moment.
That was a trigger. And as well, because I'd been kind of so busy those last 10 years trying to get my degree and establish myself, I was like, I'm on maternity leave now. I'm going to try and do something now. So I had Googled it and I'd done research before, like you'd be daydreaming. And I kind of put it to and obviously had a lot of time in the office job. But then I said, you know what, I'm going to do that now. So I signed up for an open mic comedy night. And I think my son was only like 6 weeks old. So I said it to my partner, Shane. I was like, I think I'm going to sign up for stand-up comedy. And he was just like, okay. He thought it was like postnatal depression. He was just like, okay, she's having a manic episode. But he was like, yeah, cool. So we went. I signed up, and then the week before we went, me and him, to just see what it was like. Because I was like, oh my God, I haven't really thought about this. And I thought it was going to be like 8 Mile. You know what Eminem?
Yeah.
Like everyone like, woo, throwing stuff and booing. I just thought, I don't know what I had in my head, but I just thought it'd be crazy. Like the audience would be wild. And we went the week before, and I was like, this is actually okay. There's all like nervous energy in the room. And some people are good, some people are terrible. But what was reassuring was the people who were terrible, and they were terrible, I've never seen them since. Very nice people, but not stand-ups. The thing I noticed about the people that were terrible was the audience just kind of, the worst thing.
Nice to them.
They were nice, yeah.
Okay.
The worst thing they did was they just didn't laugh. So they were respectful and they listened and they were, someone to do well on stage. That's when it twigged with me. I was like, oh, when you're in an audience, you want somebody to do well because you've come to see comedy and you want to laugh, and it's a much more comfortable situation for you as well. So when I saw it, I was like, oh, I actually don't feel too bad. So then the next week I went, I arrived, I don't know, probably 2 hours early. I do like to I'm either early for things or I'm like, 4 days late. But I got there early and I kind of announced to the barman, I'm here to do stand-up comedy. And he was just like, great. Just like, clean the glass. Like, good for you.
Is he taking that a notch? Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. And then I waited, and I think they do that night in the Halfpenny Bridge Inn. It was called Battle of the Acts. They'd put on like 9 acts and everyone would do like 7 minutes. And I think I was probably on like 7th or 8th. So like a long wait. And then I did the gig and it was totally exhilarating. And I got off stage and I remember some American woman, now looking back, it doesn't really count if an American gives you a compliment. But at the time, I thought it was great. And she said, that was brilliant. I loved it so much. And that just gave me, just that one woman saying it to me. And then they did a competition on that night, the audience vote, who was the best. And I got the vote.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow. I was like, this is amazing. So I went out and I was like, I won. And she was like, what? And then that just started a decade-long obsession. But when I went to it, that I wasn't expecting that. I just like, I was really like, I want to do this to like prove it to myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking, oh, this is the thing I'm going to do every week of my life now until the end of time, or,
How do you create your content?
Lots of different ways. Sometimes I'll just wait until it kind of like comes to me. I'll just get ideas, and with stand-up, sometimes I'll get the whole joke in my head, or sometimes I'll get the idea and I'll do it on stage, and I'll be like, I'll find it on stage with the pressure of trying to find a joke or a laugh. I send myself lots of like, I record myself. So sometimes just to try and get the idea out as quick as possible. I would get a lot of ideas after gigs because maybe my brain is going in that way. So I'll record voice notes on my phone. Sometimes I listen back to them and I was like, this sounds like a shopping list. This isn't a joke or whatever. But Yeah, so I have a system of sorts, but not really. With sketches, I'll just do some sketches. Like I did a sketch this morning, and I was like, I just have to film this and see if there's anything there. Sometimes you can write it down or articulate it, and sometimes you can't. You just have to wait until you're on stage. Or
Do you get afraid at all going on stage?
no, I wouldn't call it afraid, but definitely I've started to learn now that something definitely happens like within your body, like that your body knows.
Fight or flight response.
Yeah, like it's not like, ooh, where's the toilet? You do. There is a thing where, like I wasn't sleeping. So I was like, God, I'm pretty healthy. I was like, I eat healthy. I go to the gym. I'm not a big drinker. Now I do a little bit of drink, but with the gigs and I drive to almost all of them, like and you know yourself, if you're going, I'm driving to Cork tomorrow or wherever, you're like, I'm not drinking. It's not worth it, whatever. But I wasn't sleeping, and I was sleeping, but I was waking up mad early and I'd be totally wired, but I'd only had like, say, five hours sleep. And I was saying it to my doctor and she was like, oh, it's because like all the adrenaline. Mm-hmm. She's like, you can't expect to drive, do a gig, meet everyone after the gig, all that, and then jump in your car, drive home and just pop into bed and that you're not going to be wired. And I was like, I'm being so healthy. And she's like, oh, I know, but still, like, that's what's going to happen. Like, you can't.
What's your process for coming down then after the gig? How do you we interviewed Adam Clayton years ago in Boston.
Yeah.
His was chamomile tea. I was like, that's very rock star, chamomile tea after
a
gig to like
yeah.
50,000 people.
Well, because you don't want to have a drink because that's not real sleep. So it depends on the gig. Like, say now tonight I'll do a club gig where I'll just be trying out new stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll do like a 20-minute set. So I'll do like some not old, but like stuff that's tried and tested and then work the new stuff around it. So that'll be fine. When I'm driving home, I'll usually get a text going, can you get milk and bread? So it's usually like straight away, you're like, all right.
Down to earth, yeah.
Down to earth.
Yeah.
But if it's one of my own tour gigs, you know, like say you're doing your sound check and you're doing all that, I might just come home and have a cup of tea. I try to do things like leave my pajamas outside my room because I hate going into the bedroom trying to get dressed, you know, with your phone and stuff. So sometimes I try to have like that. My routine going to bed is a bit calmer or something. But then I took antihistamines, drowsy antihistamines. I was like, so I try and get as much sleep as possible. I just try, because before I had this thing where I felt guilt. So Irish. I felt guilty saying I was tired after a gig.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, it's not a real job. I was like, I'm only on stage
yeah.
for like an hour. I was like, get over yourself. I was like, the state of you. Oh my God, get a grip. But then I was like, I know you would be tired though. So it's only now I'm like letting myself admit. Mm-hmm. Oh, I might.
We've tracked that with performers over the years with a heart rate monitor. And we've tried on like a watch or whatever, and then afterwards we can say, look, that's the equivalent of running a half marathon or a 10K.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
Love to see
yeah,
that.
it's really interesting. Yes. Yeah. It's really nerdy and kind of geeky, but really interesting.
No, I'd love that because I don't know if it's an Irish thing or a woman thing or maybe it's just me, but I almost felt guilty.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like you're actually putting in a proper shift in like, you know, A&E or something, but it has to be like the adrenaline or something. And that's obviously a big part of why I enjoy it. It's just the constant rush, even like the constant highs and lows. Like it's kind of sometimes.
What do you do in the bad days then? So you get a heckler in the crowd, or you get a bad review in the paper, or you get a bad something on Instagram. How do you handle that?
I have a bitch. I've sent a few voice notes. So Shane Danverd is my comedy mate. I'll send him a few voice notes and be like, "Wait, I tell you about this person." I actually don't mind hecklers when they're funny. So like if someone shouts up something funny, that's quite good. But the problem about hecklers is people will shout up things that nobody knows what they've said, or like to shout up something that you said 2 minutes ago. So I don't know.
Does it bother you?
I'm doing a joke about cereal, right? And then mid-joke they'll go, muesli. And everyone's like, what? And you're like, oh, muesli, yeah, very good. They just bring you down a comedy cul-de-sac. So it's more like, if you just shut up, I would have gotten to a punchline and you've changed the whole energy. It's like, ugh. But I think now, I'm probably at a stage now where I know it's constant highs and lows all the time. So I feel like I'm almost okay with that. Or if I'm having a bad day, it is just a case of I'll be like, oh, I'm premenstrual. Okay, Grant, you know.
You accept it.
But now I think none of it lasts too long. But I think I'm lucky, maybe compared to some people, is that my day-to-day life, like my family life, I feel so lucky to have that. Because, I mean, you've always got to get up and make breakfast and, that there's cereal and whatever there. So I think that is kind of good. I think you could kind of, for me, if I didn't have that, my routine or like just a very practical way that I'm needed as like a mum and a lot of partner as well. You kind of sometimes forget about the fellas, but I think the fact that I have that, and I mean like that I have to show up, but that they're there for me, it's kind of...
Gives you a reason to get out of bed.
Yeah, so most of the time, most bad days, when I was younger, it was definitely harder, or I'd say I would have suffered from being blue a bit. But I feel now, with a bit more perspective on life, most things that happen, all I need is a good night's sleep.
And to write a book.
And to write a book.
As a form of therapy, presumably.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us all about the book and what's in it.
The book.
Mad, isn't it, Emma Doran?
Mad, isn't it? Yeah. So the book kind of starts off in my early teens, but it's all about getting pregnant in Courtown in Wexford. And I suppose, because people that follow me might know, she had her daughter when she was a teenager or whatever. So it's a bit more about that, and maybe, about navigating that and like a blended family and all that kind of stuff. But like mostly lots of laughs. But I feel like with stand-up, I probably joked about all these things, but I feel like it was a good opportunity to put a bit of light and shade as well and just go into maybe more detail. So it was, it was enjoyable, but it definitely, not brought up stuff, but I remember one day when I was in the middle of writing it and I had seen my mum the day before and I had like a cold, and she messaged me and she said, "How are you feeling today?" And I saw the message and I was like, "Oh, what do you want now?" And I was like, I had to check myself because I was like, "Oh, I'm regressing. I'm regressing into like my teenage self." I was like, she's just texted me to see how I am. That's a really nice thing. And I'm there like throwing the eyes or whatever. But so at times it was actually, I did regress a little bit. And I was like, oh, I hadn't really worked through that, but because you've got time, you push things down. But yes, it was enjoyable to do, and hopefully people will enjoy it. I think people will be pleasantly surprised because it is actually a book.
Have you seen it in a bookstore yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
That's the best moment of all.
But you know what? And nobody has really read it. I didn't give it to any of my family, or I didn't let anyone check it. I gave it,
The brothers are in for land.
I know. So I gave it to my daughter. I thought she's the only pretty look of concern there. Oh, I gave it to my daughter because I thought, well, she's someone who needs to see if she's okay with everything. But apart from that, I didn't, because I didn't want to think too much about it being a book. I just wanted to write it. So... But I think
it's going to be an interesting Christmas dinner in your house. And you're back on. So the book is out in stores nationwide, and you're back on tour soon as well. If people want to check out the dates for the tour.
Oh yeah, so my website is emmadorancomedy.com. So I'll be back toured in September and going all over the country and the UK and all that jazz. And
you're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram. Emma Doran Comedian is me. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. Thank you for coming in. Folks, Emma Doran's book, Mad, Isn't It?, is out in bookstores nationwide and online. You can get it there too. That is it for another episode of Real Health with me, Carl Henry. Really hope you enjoyed today's episode. The life lessons are fascinating. Interesting people, interesting lives, and interesting perspectives. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Slán go fóill.